Roy Williams is a marketing man. His clients want to buy whatever advertising sells the most product.
It's Rick Dees in the morning. All communication should be poetic. Bring him in, please. Roy Williams!
Essential to any company is the ability to get your message out. My guest says, don't give up hope. Joining me now is Roy Williams.
Yes, so how do you speak in poetry to people and get them to do things you want them to do?
Here to talk about the advantages of radio advertising is the author of a new book called The Wizard of Ads.
Joining me is Roy Williams. Today we're talking about his book, Secret Formulas of the Wizard of Ads. This is one of the most important books that anybody can read.
What makes people do the things they do? More importantly, how can we get people to do what we want them to do? With another part of the answer to that question, here's the Wizard of Ads, Roy H. Williams.
In this session, we're going to look at the sacred cows of advertising. Yes, advertising has some sacred cows, and it's important that you know what they are. Now, this is admittedly controversial, but I truly believe I'm right. Stay with me. The three sacred cows of advertising. The first is gross rating points. I am profoundly in opposition to the whole concept of gross rating points. The reason is anybody who is purchasing advertising or making advertising decisions based upon gross rating points or cost per gross rating point will almost invariably fall into the trap of reaching too many people with too little repetition. Too many people with too little repetition. The great eraser of advertising is sleep. Sleep is what washes, purges, and cleanses the mind of all the noise of the day. Now, the critical ratio for the average message, most messages are average. For the average message, the identical prospect needs to hear the identical ad 3 times within 7 nights' sleep. When I say hear the ad, they hear the ad that they read on a printed ad. You see, because the written word has no meaning until it has been translated into the spoken word in the mind. Wow. So even when you're reading silently off paper, that is still hearing it. You have to hear the same message 3 times within 7 days to have a high potential for long-term retention. You have to hear it 3 times every 7 days for a number of weeks in a row. How many weeks depends upon the individual, but it's a lot of weeks no matter who you are. Yes, there are variables, the power of the message, etc. We'll get into that later. But gross rating points is calculated by looking at the number of people you're reaching, multiplying it by how often you're reaching them to come up with a thing called gross impressions. You reach 100,000 people 10 times, that's 1 million gross impressions. If you're in a city of exactly 1 million people, well, that's 100 gross rating points. You've reached the equivalent of 100% of the city 1 time. In fact, you could reach 1 million people 1 time. That too would be 100 gross rating points. Wait a minute. 100 gross rating points. Does that mean that to reach 100% of the city once is 100 gross rating points? Yes. Or to reach half the city twice is 100 gross rating points? Yes. Or to reach 1/4 of the city 4 times? Yes, 100 gross rating points. To reach 1/10 of the city 10 times? Yes, that's 100 gross rating points. What if you reach 1% of the city 100 times? That's 100 gross rating points. Does it matter which of those you did? You're damn right it matters. Of course it matters. Are you stupid? If you reach 100% of the city once, you had better have a message that is overwhelmingly compelling. In the vast majority of instances, to reach 100% of the city once is going to do utterly no good whatsoever. But baby, you got 100 gross rating points. And if you're measuring by gross rating points, you're setting yourself up for a disaster. You must know the components of the gross rating points. You must know the reach. You must know the frequency. Do not multiply them together to get gross impressions. Gross impressions are grossly and utterly meaningless. Now, don't reach more people than you can afford to reach with sufficient repetition. That's the key. When you're measuring only by gross rating points, you're in a very dangerous position because you are going to operate under the dangerous assumption, the invalid assumption, the totally foolish assumption that reaching everybody once is the same as reaching 1/10 as many people 10 times, and it simply isn't the same. For my money, give me 1/10 of the people 10 times, long before you give me all the people once. Now, gross rating points is one of the sacred cows of advertising. Another one is media mix. I'm actually even a more violent opponent of media mix than I am gross rating points. The reason is simply this. Very few advertisers have the money to do more than one thing well. They barely have enough money that if they did one thing with their whole heart, it would work. They have to be focused. They have to restrict the number of people they're trying to reach, and they have to make sure they have sufficient repetition, and above all, they have to make sure they're saying the right thing. Most advertisers are reaching the right people saying the wrong thing, and it's not working. Most advertising is not producing remotely the results it should because some moron, forgive me, decided that you needed to reach all these people multiple ways. What an incredibly dumb assumption to assume that in an over-communicated society that the same person who sees the TV ad is going to realize, oh, this is the same company that ran that radio ad and the same company that ran that newspaper ad, and I'm connecting this in my mind to that billboard over there. No, it doesn't happen. The vast majority of the time when people sprinkle their money and they do a whole bunch of different media, they reach that many different groups of people one time each, and the people who do see the TV ad and hear the radio ad and see the newspaper ad don't connect those three things in their mind. Put all your eggs in one basket, as said Mark Twain, and guard that basket. Do one thing wholeheartedly, like Tom Bodett for Motel 6. They took every penny they had in the world and put it on one medium. And then one year they ran an incredibly funny little television spot during the Super Bowl that reminded everyone instantly of all the dozens of Tom Bodett ads they had heard over the years. Not a bad reminder. Now, the consistency of the style and the wit and the violin music as a recall cue, bang, they were connected in the mind. Everybody could hear Tom Bodett's voice even though he did not appear on the spot. You heard it in your mind, even though you're reading it on the screen. Now, media mix is a dangerous thing. I always advise against it unless you have so much money that you can do one thing wholeheartedly and have no room to do it any better and still have money left over. Then do a second thing with the extra money, but not until you've done the first thing to absolute saturation. Now, the third sacred cow is decision maker targeting, and this is even more controversial than the first two. We have made a lot of clients nationwide very, very, very successful. As a matter of fact, we've made them filthy rich by not worrying about who we were reaching, but worrying about what we were saying. Now, people always get their knickers in a twist. They get their panties in a bind whenever I say decision maker targeting is highly overrated. People just go, oh my, oh my. What have you left us, Roy? You've said no media mix, you've said no gross rating points, and no decision maker targeting. Are you trying to tell me that it's just as good to reach when the target is All of us live in an over-communicated society. All of us have a realm of association of at least 250 people. You have 250 friends, relatives, co-workers, business associates who have entrance and relationship in your life. Now let's say that you were trying to reach me, that I was the decision maker. But you only were able to reach 10% of the community that I lived in, and I wasn't in the 10% you were reaching, but I was a decision maker, I was a prospect for you. Wow. Reaching 10% of my community, but you missed me. I contend the right message will find the right person, and that your message, if it is artfully written and powerfully presented, will come to me through one of my 25 friends you did reach. If you reach 10% of the city with sufficient repetition and a convincing message. And I have a realm of association, as does the average citizen, of 250 people with whom I have first-name relationship and fairly intimate regular contact. You just reached 25 of my best friends, and I'll wager more than one of them is going to pass that message on to me sooner or later. Now, don't try to reach more people than you can afford to reach relentlessly. Don't worry about who you're reaching, worry about what you're saying, because word-of-mouth advertising is built upon having reached someone, anyone, powerfully. Having reached someone, anyone, with a message that was convincing. That message will find its way to the people that need to hear it. Worry about what you're saying. Quit worrying quite so much about who you're reaching. Am I saying that any media provider can be used for any product? No. I'm not quite that foolish, but I will tell you this. The number of obvious misfits is relatively small. About 2/3 of your media options will fit the average client. And there's maybe a third that's just a bad marriage, but it's so incredibly obvious you don't need to try to make a huge science out of trying to determine the right place to advertise. Reach the most people you can possibly reach that are sort of the right people, and reach them with the highest degree of repetition you possibly can. If you cannot reach the same person with the same ad at least 3 times each week, you're trying to reach too many people. Decision maker targeting, media mix, gross rating points are the sacred cows of advertising. I say it's time for these cows to die. And we're going to replace the 3 sacred cows with the ape. Now, calculating the ape is what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes. What is the ape? Well, the ape is short, but very powerful. With long arms that reach into scheduling, copywriting, spot production, and customer reputation, it can predict with uncanny accuracy the success of any ad campaign. The APE is the advertising performance equation. The advertising performance equation is composed of 3 different equations. The master equation looks like this: S of V times IQ times PEF times MPO equals the sales volume of the advertiser. To better understand the APE, you must first consider the 3 separate equations that it attempts to combine. The first of these equations is share of voice. The advertising sales representative delivers share of voice. It is the schedule that you buy. Your share of voice as an advertiser is the percentage of all the business in your business category done, the percentage of all the advertising in your category done by you. Of all the advertising done in your category, in your business category, if you did 20% of it, then you have a 20% share of voice. Now, some people say share of voice equals share of market. Share of voice equals share of mind. Not so fast, hotshot. It doesn't work quite that way. Share of voice is important. It is the percentage of all the advertising done for your product category that has been done by you. That's your share of voice. Now, what is share of mind? Share of mind is share of voice that has been adjusted. Adjusted by what? Share of mind is your share of voice adjusted by the impact quotient of your ads. Yes, the impact quotient is the ad's ability to convince. Is the ad convincing? How convincing is the ad? How many people you reach, share of voice, times how convinced are they? Now you have share of mind. Let's look at share of market. What is that? That is the percentage of all the business done in your business category done by you. Share of voice is percentage of all the advertising done by you. Share of mind is what percentage of the customer's awareness is owned by you. That was share of voice, remember, adjusted by the impact quotient of the ad. Share of voice is a percentage. The impact quotient is a factor. It's a multiplication factor. Likewise, let's look at this. Share of voice times impact quotient equals share of mind. Share of voice times impact quotient equals share of mind. An impact quotient for an ad that is perfectly average is 1.0. Ads can range above and below a 1.0. So, if your ad is totally average and everybody else's ads are totally average, then share of voice is in fact share of mind. But ads are not quite ever that average. Share of mind times personal experience factor, equals share of market. Now, the customer comes in. He has an experience significantly higher than, by the way, personal experience factor, also the average personal experience factor is a 1.0, as the average impact quotient of the ad is a 1.0. A person walks out 80% above and beyond their expectations. They had a customer experience, they had music in the store and that atmosphere and the salespeople and the lighting and the displays and the way they were treated and the short line at the cash register, and they just had an experience that was 80% better than what they had actually anticipated. Now, this is all unconscious or subconscious, but the impact quotient of the ad is what helped bring them in, the personal experience factor of what happened inside the customer's store or what happened over the phone whenever they called your client. Hey, that's what brings the customer back, the personal experience factor. Now, share of mind times personal experience factor equals share of market. You'll have to ponder this a little bit. But when it finally soaks in, you'll realize that the APE formula reconciles, for the first time in history, all of the divergent responsibilities of everyone in the business loop. Then, share of market times market potential equals sales volume. If you have 30% of the market potential, and the market potential is $10 million, you're doing about $3 million a year. Ta-da! You can actually calculate the impact of an ad schedule on a business if you know a few key things. Now, the impact quotient of the ad and the personal experience factor have to be averaged. They will be different for each individual, but they can be averaged. They can be measured. Now, please do this for a moment. Recognize share of voice for two advertisers is identical. They reach the same number of people with the same repetition. The impact quotient for these two advertisers is identical. The ability of the ad to convince the public, identical. Whatever how they scored on the IQ, they both scored it. So the share of mind for these two advertisers is the same. The only thing different is the personal experience factor, and this is the one thing beyond the ability of the advertising professional to deliver. This is something that is uniquely, solely, and absolutely in the hands of your client, the business owner. Nothing will build or destroy a business like a personal experience factor. He's either helping you and he's driving and accelerating your advertising success, or he's holding you back and cutting your legs off out from under you. Business owners must be made to understand they must live up to the promises and the expectations. The promises of the ad and the expectations of the customer. Calculate this. Share of voice. Impact quotient, share of mind, the same for two advertisers. However, one of them delighted the customer walked out. Mentally, the personal experience factor was about a 1.8. They got 80% more than they had expected. Remember, 1.0 is absolutely average. The other advertiser allowed the customer to walk out the door about 40% disappointed. The line was too long, the temperature was too hot, the place smelled funny, he couldn't find a salesperson, got what he needed, made a purchase, left with it, but just not that delighted with this place. Personal experience factor, 0.6. Fell 40% short of the customer's expectations and hopes. Now wait a minute, do the math. Do all the multiplication and you'll find the advertiser who has the 1.8 PEF, personal experience factor, the results of his advertising are 3 times the results experienced by the person who disappointed his customer. The personal experience factor is what causes a customer to say, yeah, it's a great ad for the restaurant, but I've eaten there and it sucks like a Hoover. I will never go back again, and I will make sure all my friends never go back. That restaurant stinks. Now, whose fault is it that this person is telling everybody in town not to go there? Is it the fault of the advertising professional, their TV or radio station? Or is it the fault of the business owner for being a dolt? It is the fault of the business owner. I tell you this only because if you aren't careful, business owners will cause you to believe that you and you alone determine traffic. Traffic is very largely a product of the PEF, which is solely, entirely, and completely in the hands of the business owner or the store manager. Now, the advertising performance equation is the correct way to measure ad schedules and their impact, and it's the best way to reconcile the media provider with the responsibility of the ad writer, the schedule with the ad itself, with the business owner's responsibility to delight and satisfy the expectations of the customer. Share of voice times impact quotient equals share of mind. Share of mind times personal experience factor equals share of market. Share of market times market potential equals sales volume. The share of voice, share of mind, share of market, those are percentages. The impact quotient, the personal experience factor, are factors. They are multipliers. 1.0 being average. Market potential is simply a dollar amount that is a known number that can be easily determined through very simple research. S of V, share of voice, times IQ, impact quotient, times PEF, personal experience factor, times market potential, MPO equals the sales volume of the advertiser. There you have it. Advertising can be made a science, but only if everybody in the equation is honest and plays by the rules.